They were getting a little bit older, and he worried that his wife's hearing wasn't what it used to be, and that maybe it was time for her to get hearing aids. He wasn't sure how to broach the subject. So he talks to a retired physician friend of his who says, you know what, here's what I think you do. Be about 40 feet from her, say a sentence in a clear, strong voice, and see if she hears you. And if not, gradually move closer until she can. So that evening, he's in his office, which was about 40 feet from the kitchen. His wife was there looking at a cookbook. So he says in a clear voice, "Honey, what's for dinner?" Silence. So he moves to the living room. He figured about 25 feet, asks again, "Honey, what's for dinner?" Nothing. He goes to the kitchen entranceway. She has her back to him, about 10 feet now. Says, "Honey, what's for dinner?" Again, no response. So he walks up and stands right behind her. "Honey, what's for dinner?" She turns around and says, and I love this, "Ralph, for the 4th time, chicken." Sometimes we don't realize we are the ones not hearing so well. Now, in today's gospel, some folks really hear Jesus. And the scriptures say they marvel at the power in his word and the authority with which he teaches them. How about us? Do we hear him really? Do we marvel at the power and wisdom of his teaching? And this crucial question, I think, do we even believe or trust that there is a power in his word worth hearing? It worries me that many of us have never met the real Jesus or heard the true power of his beauty, of his message. And I'll tell you, and I say this with all my heart, that the values that man proclaimed, that he lived, and for which he gave his life are stunning. And they are worth my life. There's a beauty and a freedom and a power in his words. And I will be forever grateful for those who have brought me to Jesus, an authentic Jesus, and taught me his ways. And sometimes it's clergy, and sometimes it's full-time religious people who have been so enamored of our rules and our religious practices and our ways of thinking that we don't actually give people authentic Jesus. We portray sometimes this moralizing, finger-pointing, boring Jesus, and who's aloof maybe, is just the person we call on in a jam because we don't know what else to do. And we miss the power of his words and what is available for us. And I'm really, really sad about that. I'm sorry. Because Jesus is truly amazing. 2 weeks ago, I talked about God as being omnilingual, meaning God knows every language, including yours and mine. God knows how to speak to each of us in a way that we can get. Last weekend, I talked about the fact that God does not just know that, God actually does call us. And the call is always do the next right thing. Do what's needed for love Now, today the message is, it is so worth it to take that call. I don't even know how to tell you. I feel the poverty of words, how much I appreciate what an astonishing teacher and human and hero Jesus is, that he is so worth hearing. What he stood for and what he lived is breathtakingly beautiful. His idea of the kingdom is this whole new way of relating to ourselves, to each other, to creation, and to all of the world. It's a difficult way. It really is. But it's so life-giving and so worth it. Now, as you heard, after Mass today, we have an open house for our school. I consider it part of my job for our kids at school, where I have an extra chance to do that, but for all of our kids, to make sure that they know that the way of Jesus works. And I want them to see in me, though I do this imperfectly, someone who loves Jesus and what Jesus stands for, who loves them and who is happy, that his way brings great joy, that it is worth my life and it is worth their lives. Again, his ways are hard, but when all swirls around me and life is scary or confusing or sad, I trust, because I've lived long enough to know this to be true, that if I cling to what Jesus proclaimed, lived, and showed me to be possible, I will know life. It's always worth it to choose what he proclaimed, to live it. Now, in all honesty, I can't say that I always listen. There are parts of me that don't always want to hear everything he says and invites. But when I am aware and most alive, I know this. He is worth my life. I chuckled at the guy who kept asking his wife what's for dinner, not aware that the hearing issue was really his own. Well, sometimes that's me. Perhaps sometimes that's you as well. But deep down, I know this to be true. The words and example of Jesus are astonishing. He is amazing. I love him, and I love his way. I do.